This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode does not contain any spoilers, including from the Neverlist by Jade Presley. Thanks so much for listening.
Everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are welcoming a very special guest and our new friend, Jade Presley,
who is the author of the new release, The Neverlist, which is a romantasy. Why choose? Welcome, Jade.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on the podcast. We're so excited because this is the first foray into why choose that we've ever discussed on the podcast. And so really, it's like, why don't you tell us what why choose means to you and then introduce us to the world of Lumithist?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to hear that. I've been getting a lot of DMs about this is the first why choose these early readers have read. So I'm so excited about that. Why choose for me is such a fun genre, especially why choose romantasy, because it's so female empowering and I am all about that vibe. I love a strong heroine and I love it when like all the attention is on her. I feel like there's something so intrinsic about that and almost like it's such a fun fantasy to escape into for women identifying people. And I'm so excited because you don't have to, it's not a love triangle. You don't have to pick a favorite. You just have to hang on for the ride. And so that's what Why Choose is to me.
Well, you say that even for your dedication in the beginning of the arcs that we received. You're like, this is for everybody who doesn't know which one they have to choose when it comes to your ideal book boyfriend. And why do you? That's the excitement of this.
Yes, absolutely. Because I know there's a lot of stress. Like I grew up on the trend of love triangles and it was always so anxiety ridden for me. And I'm like, we don't need that right now on this timeline. We need stress-free escape, excitement when it comes to those romantic relationships. Obviously there's some tension in this book, but not the romantic relationships so much. So that's I love that.
So this is so exciting. And again, thank you so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it because it's the year 2025. We are surviving and looking for joy in all of the places. It is so important to keep your spark of joy alive and looking in all our new places. Again, like we said, this is our first foray into Why Choose. Here's our new place, but this is not new for you. You have a new an older series that is also in the Why Choose vein. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I have a romantasy Why Choose that it was my debut, and it was like the first one. It was called Her Villains, and I put it out as like this passion project. I really needed something completely just different and fun and almost indulgent. And I didn't know if anybody was going to read it or not, but it resonated with a lot of readers. It resonated with just pure delight. Like it's just an escape and it's something that a lot of readers needed at the time. So it was wonderful. And I'm so excited to be able to have written one for Red Tower now. I think it's awesome that it's going to be traditionally published because, of course, my first series was independently published. So I feel very, very lucky.
And have you found the experience different from writing Why Choose in an indie setting and then writing Why Choose in a traditionally published setting?
It definitely was different because when I was sitting down with my first Why Choose, it was really just for me. And I didn't know if it would go anywhere. It was pure fun. And while writing The Neverlist was pure fun, I also got this awesome experience of having the brilliant minds of Red Tower being in my team. And it really just opened up the creative process because I had so many other brilliant minds, like with history with Why Choose, like talking to me about it and like how we could touch readers in certain ways and just kind of opening my mind in a way that I hadn't thought about when I was first writing Why Choose. And so it has been a wonderful learning experience, as well as just like a collaborative process that I didn't get when I was doing it by myself, and so that has been absolutely wonderful.
That's so interesting. So then my question to you would be, did your writing process change between your first series and this new series, The Neverlist?
So my writing process didn't change, which is great, but the editing process did. Of course, with my independent published, I did have an editor, but for this one, I got a team of editors. And so there was like so many different wonderful minds chiming in on certain scenes and certain things. And then also them telling me like, oh, okay, this was my favorite. And somebody else being like, no, this was my favorite. And just being able to just have like people see you and understand you as an author. So while my traditional plotter style didn't change, it was more just like the team. I just felt like I had a team of people, a team of women who saw me. And it was like, almost like a hype squad. So it was pretty great.
Well, speaking of plotting, would you consider yourself then a plotter or a pantser or kind of a combination of both?
I'm definitely a plotter. I have to have I take like sometimes 2 to 3 weeks to plot out the entire novel. And I'll have a chapter by chapter analysis. And so kind of like whose point of view it is, what vibe the scene is creating, what's at stake in the scene, and who's it at stake for. Like that way, it just helps me hold myself accountable when I sit down at the computer. Even if I like am all over the place creatively, I have already done the work and I know what I need to do. And so I can just dive into that, kind of like a mini synopsis, almost like a TV series. Okay, this episode is going to be about this. And then, of course, sometimes my characters take me a different route. It doesn't always stay the same, but I can see it as a whole before I sit down. And sometimes it changes, but most of the time we stick to it.
Oh, that is so interesting. Here's my question. My question is, when you're writing your spicy scenes, we have a lot to keep track of. There's a lot going on. And we're a plotter, so we know what's happening. Do we have help with that? Let me be clear. Do you have let me be more specific.
Yes, I call 5 people in. No.
Yes. Do you have like dolls or is there something like really that you can use to see? Because I struggle with geometry, so I can only imagine what it's like with things that actually move.
Yes. So I love this question. So you're gonna laugh. It's super technical and professional. I do stick figure drawings. And then sometimes I will enlist my husband to come in, and I'm like, hey, we got to act out like a certain, like if it's somebody's standing and somebody's not, and things like that. I have to double check this because, especially with there's so many eyes on it, you're like, we have to make sure this actually will work. And it's not totally, implausible to be doing certain things. So it is a lot of work and it is ridiculous. Like when I'm drawing the stick figures, I'm like dying laughing. Like it is a really fun part of the process. And, sometimes I've had to Google things. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I've had to like venture onto, cosmopolitan sites and things like that to find out like, would this actually be fun or would it be more complicated and more work? So yeah, stick figures are my main source.
Well, and you say that you would bring your husband into some of these, and I'm sure he's enthusiastically consenting to being such a helpful partner and contributor to your writing. But that's also such a huge theme in the Neverlist is enthusiastic consent. I mean, I feel like on page 5, right in the invite, it says, your enthusiastic consent is required to attend the choosing.
Yeah, that's a huge theme. And yes, he has been my biggest supporter forever. So it is hilarious when he has to come into the office and like either act out like a battle scene with me or a kissing scene. And I'm like, wait, how long? I'm like, let's time this. How long would it be? Would it be weird to make out for this long? Like I have to do these certain things. And he's like, all right. He's like, I was doing laundry, but let's do this.
What the heck?
So no, he's wonderful. He's such a great supporter. And he's probably my number one fan, which I just love. Like he'll tell people on the golf course about what I write. It's so cute. But yeah, enthusiastic consent is such a huge deal for me. Because, well, it just should be for everybody in general. Like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, in my opinion. And something about why choose, I wanted to make sure that was incredibly apparent with this story, especially because there is a lot of wealthy, powerful men in this story. And I didn't want any confusion on like it's coercion or they're doing it for a certain reason. I wanted people, if you accept this invitation, it's like a binding contract. You're excited, you're pumped, and you hope to get chosen. And even with Riley, my main character's internal dilemma, she still goes over that in her mind and she accepts it. She's like, it's not going to happen, but if it did, it might be fun. And so that's very important to me. I also have a son that I'm raising, and we talk about consent all the time, and he's only 10. We've been talking about it since he was 3. And certain, like, oh, you asked to hold hands, you asked to hug. So it's always been very important in my life. And so I think that just naturally translated into what is a very spicy book.
And it is a very spicy book. So my ideas were, where did this come from? So we have Riley, our main character, and we have our wide shoes setting, but where did this idea for this? Because there is a lot of plot that is not spiciness in here. And I'm a plot girl. I love plot. I mean, I love this spice too, but I eat plot up, and I loved this. There is so much going on. The world is so flushed out. We have a map here. So like, where did this inspiration come from? Where did this map come from?
Thank you so much for saying that. That really means the world for me. Cause like when I sat down, I did that with intention. So my independent Why I Choose, it is plot heavy, but it's a lot shorter. It's a very quick read. I wanted it to be a very quick escape. But for the Never List, we were coming up on my next project, and I was talking with my publisher, and we really wanted a romantasy that you could sink your teeth into, the ones that we're all in love with right now. But make it Why I Choose, because that hadn't really come out in this line yet with Red Tower, and that's kind of something they were looking for. And luckily, Riley, my character, had already been talking to me. She was very loud, which I love because it makes my job so much easier. She kind of kicked in the door, and she had a story to tell, and it started with the choosing event, and it was very visual in my mind. She did not want to be there. She was there under different circumstances, and then it's like that wrong place, wrong time. But then it turns out to be maybe it was the right time. And so she came to me with this, royal, intriguing political plot, already ready to go. And so it kind of exploded from her. And luckily my publisher was like, yes, do that. And I was like, all right, let's go.
And then they're just fanning the fire of like more. Yes. Keep like giving you well, and then like you said, you have this wonderful team who is a hype squad, and you're like, give us more. And it's the brainstorming, and what if we do this? And what if we do that? So you're like, wait, what if we do this? Because you're a plotter. So you're already having some of these main themes, and then it's working through fleshing them out. Right?
Yes, absolutely. You're spot on. And that's something that I love about this process with my team of people who I kept saying it to them, like if we were on the phone or through a text message, I'd be like, you just see me. Like they just saw me as an author. They knew what voice Riley had. They knew her, and they'd be like, let's unpack this even further. And I was like, oh man, you're right. Let's do that. And so it was just such a wonderful process. And yeah, it just was awesome. I loved it.
So we have Riley, we have our four men, and we also have, Riley has other people in her life as well. And there is a strong, like, female friendship bond there. And that was so wonderful. And that was something I honestly was not like expecting and loved so much. And the feeling of, this is going to happen, but my friends are going to come with me, and this is going to happen. And I'm still thinking about them, and, we're going to work together, and my friends are with me, and I'm not leaving them, and they're not leaving me, and everybody understands everything. That was such a little thread of strength and so wonderful, and something that is just, I feel like, not common all the time. The focus on female friendship is something that we really love here at ACOFAE, and this was, we have so much going on, but the steadiness of friendship is like a foundation that you can stand on so that you have the strength to do all of this other stuff. And that's just so important. So thank you for including that. I know that's not like a huge point or plot point here, but it's very important to us. We love that.
No, thank you. Thank you. I love hearing that. I love seeing positive female relationships in books, especially because sometimes it is hard, especially when you're balancing four romantic partners with one main character. It definitely was a hard balance, but it was something I wanted to make sure I included because I think there's something very, again, relatable about feeling stronger after you've had a night with your girls who just like they're not going to judge you. They're not going to criticize you. They're just going to have your back. And that's something that I really wanted to display with Riley because I felt like she really needed that because she was in a low point. And if she hadn't had her girls there being like, you got this, make these guys fall for you. You're the best. Like she would have probably been in her head a lot more. And so I just love Ivy and Lacey. And I just love I love that relationship. So I'm so glad it resonated with you.
Well, and it sets up from the beginning with them that way too, because even when you're talking about like being strong and your friends aren't going to judge you, and even with the concept of the choosing and, you know, willing to be one of the participants, Riley right off the gate is like, you know, it's not a terrible idea, y'all. Like, think about it. For Princess, like, I'm not going to say no. And they were so judgment free. They were like, you know what? The last 5 kind of potentials kind of ran in the opposite direction. She's like, yeah, but like, why would you? You know, it's all those theoretical conversations that you have with your girls. And it makes it so much fun. And so right from the beginning, you're like, okay, we have the choosing. First, you're asking yourself, well, what is the choosing? Of course, everybody reading the first couple of pages, you're like, okay, let's reel it in. It's only page 3. We're going to find out. But then, you know that their friendship is tried and true. They've kind of gone through similar situations as children, and here they are as adults. I love the explanation of, yeah, we stopped counting our age at 21 and we just keep looking good. Yes, please. Like, that's right? Same. That'd be great. Just like, this is going to be the year I want to put him in.
Yeah, we're going to be done here. We've grown up, but we're going to stop. Yeah, I mean, why not? It's a fantasy. So I was like, let's just have this be super fun for all of us.
Well, and we've talked about the women. Let's talk about the men. What was it like getting into the headspace of 4 very unique men? What was that like for you?
It was so much fun. That's another reason why I love writing Why Choose, because you get to dive so much deeper into different character arcs. And for me, before I even start plotting, I get to know my main characters first. So I will sketch them out completely before I even put them in the plot. So I got to know Pearson, Axel, and Cal and Jax very quickly. Like I knew what their vibe was. I knew what their attitude was. I knew how they would respond to Riley. I knew what they smelled like. Like I get really deep in my sketches before I even put them in a plot. So it was really fun exploring them. And I think it's something with the Why Choose, you also have to make sure that it's not a copy and paste. Like they need to be different and they need to kind of play to different pieces of Riley. And that's something that I really love exploring. Like, okay, if she's in the mood for adventure and fun, who is she going to be with? Or if she needs to be held and given coffee and croissants, who's bringing those to her? So it's always a fun exercise before actually putting them into the actual plot. So
is there one that you are more drawn to when you were writing our male main characters out? Or was it very much like you were saying, you're like, each one has such a distinct personality with what they can offer too?
Yeah. So when I was first sketching them out, I'm always drawn to those broody, moody bad boys. So I was like, it's going to be Jax. Like, even though I'm not supposed to have favorites, I'm like, Jax is going to be the one that probably gives me the most trouble and the one I'm most excited to get to. But when I actually got to into the writing process, I found myself excited for each of the guys' chapters. And then I was like, oh, this is probably a good thing because it can play to so many different readers, flavors, like flavor requests, And so I felt like, okay, we're on to something good because I was excited every time I got with a different prince. And Jax definitely has a special place in my heart because he was the hardest to get into because he was so closed off. But I can't pick a favorite. It's so hard because they just play to different pieces of like what you're feeling at the time. So,
well, I think it is not a spoiler to say that all of our 4 male main characters have a city and a color representing them. So in the beginning of the book, we have a beautiful map. So when I'm looking at this map, it was very helpful because I read this book the first time and I purposely did not look at the map because I like to see if I can figure it out for myself. And I had a rough outline. But we have our main cities, and then we have our other cities over here on the side. And so what was it like, kind of making this world like a reality on paper, sketching it out, these places, distances, like landmarks? What was that process like?
It was really fun. I actually did a lot of research going into this, into like monarchies throughout history, and kind of studied different, social norms and laws and things like that. But I really studied London and the UK when I was looking at kind of laying out Lumethist, just to give me kind of a physical representation of what it could look like. And then I kind of expanded it and made it my own from there. And so it was really fun because I'm not an artist. I wish I was. And so I tried to draw out the map and I sent it to my team, and then they came out with something, a million times better, which is just wonderful. But I definitely did that early on because I needed to be able to see like, okay, the girls are walking this way and then they're driving through this way. And it definitely helps to have it out, even if it was my terrible rendition of it. So
with that research that you had laying out in the map, and I know you said you were very much inspired with like the history of like the UK and London, do you feel that in that research that there were moments in history that influenced the political plots that you had going on in this book?
Yeah, absolutely. It did. Because I did weeks of research, and there's so many different monarchies to look at, but I believe it was the UK that I did see something that was like, it wasn't the Never list, but they had tons of different lists that they kept, these records, and some of them were like, okay, these are the important birthdays list, and it was that simple. Or there would be other ones like, okay, these are the, ascension list, like people are going to, go from one title to another now. And so I was very inspired by that. And then I was like, well, what if there was a Never list? Like, and what if somebody on that list ended up getting chosen to potentially be queen? And it was just such a fun explosion idea from there. And Riley was already, talking to me with her attitude towards authority. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And so it definitely helped.
And kind of building on this, throughout the book, there is a thread of religion. We've got the goddesses going on, and their involvement or non-involvement in life and what's going on. And, kind of there's a mystery a little bit about like what maybe really happened and what is going on there. And I'm a religion person. I love that. I love it. It is so much fun. So to have these women that are kind of like haunting the plot a little bit, just like in the background was again, just an added layer of complexity to what could be labeled as just a why choose, instead of this very complex book that we have in front of us. Because as I'm sure we're all aware, women can't like anything, and right? Like we can't like anything, because if we like it, then there's going to be somebody going, you shouldn't like that. That's bad. And so I find that in this kind of weird situation, climate that we're in, that having this in my hands is a kind of freedom that I might not feel, but I can come home and I can read this and I can feel my freedom here. And that's inspiring. And that is very important. And so I do find that while a lot of people might just focus on the spice, and of course it's excellent, of course it's lovely, there is just a deeper level here of female empowerment. And as you were saying earlier, like autonomy, choices, like there is choice throughout all of this book, throughout all of these men. Choice is hers. It's there, and it can be, and she can say, you know what? No, at any point. And that's a kind of freedom that is inspiring and wonderful. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. You're going to make me cry. That's something that was so intentional. And normally I don't say I sit down with any intention with the story, but with this one, I really did. I mean, especially with just the political climate right now, either way, whichever side, there's a sense with women, especially women identifying people, that we're a little scared and we need a little escape. We need a little power back, I felt like. And I think Why Choose, it's such a beautiful genre to do that in because it is all about her. And I think we deserve that. I think we've earned that. And I think that there is something so freeing about sitting down with a book and watching somebody be able to actually exercise that autonomy, even if we're not, able to do it, ourselves. And I often say, like, I'm not as cool as Riley. I wish I was. I wish I had her, her bite, her sass, and like be able to just speak my mind and not be afraid. But, I think there's something about being able to see a woman do that and have it all be about her and have her have that power that really did, resonate. So I'm so grateful for that.
Well, and don't discredit yourself that you're not like Riley because you wrote Riley. So there's a part of you that you are in Riley for this character that you're writing and we're reading. So thank you for sharing her with us.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad. Like, I love her. She's great. And she gave me hope in a time where everything was very dark, and so I felt very good to be with her during her story.
So, of course, we're keeping this spoiler free, but we have the choosing and we have that right up front. And of course, our tagline is why choose one when you can have them all. So we can kind of all see where this is going here. But the choosing is an event, right? It is, like part lottery in a way, but also part invitation, social event, gala, very luxurious. So my question would be, each of our men have their own unique city with unique architecture and unique life and unique culture. And what was that experience like? Just making sure that everybody is very different. Like everybody's going to be different, but we're all going to be an aspect of Riley that she needs. Because again, as you say, it's all about her. So the way that I kind of see Why Choose is all of these men are filling a missing piece of her so that everybody is stronger together and her, so it's all like one big, so what was that experience like? And again, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but I'm just excited. You were talking about, you were doing research, just to kind of get like vibes and things for lists, but I'm wondering if you did research for like architecture and things.
Thank you. And no, don't ever be sorry. I love this. Yes, I did. I actually, and then I expanded it to like cities all over the world and all throughout history. So that definitely played a part. So when I would focus on each character and I was like, okay, where would the dreamer be? Like what would his city be like? And so it was very much started with the character first and then kind of building his perfect city around him. And so for Cal, especially, the dreamers are going to be the artists and the theater goers and the book readers and things like that. And, he's also going to be, the way he helps the kingdom is to feed them and to, explore new ideas on how to feed and take care of all these people. And that was something that really played with Riley because she's an Ashlander. And so things like that are not given to her like they are to this city. And so it would be intriguing to her, but also kind of a point of pain for her as well. And so, yeah, I really started with the characters and it was just so fun because again, they're so different. And so it was really easy to see, okay, these cities are going to be super unique and play to them, like Axel's city. Of course it's going to be coastal and playful, and there's going to be a sense of camaraderie that maybe doesn't happen in the Obsidian City because the Obsidian City is wild and chaotic, just like Jackson. So it was a lot of fun.
So really, and I feel like this is consistent throughout all of the conversations we've had thus far, is that the characters have grounded every part of this story, whether it's the history, whether it's the cities, whether it's, the emotional intent with each interaction with Riley.
Yes, absolutely. I've always been a kind of character-driven writer, but for Why Choose especially, I feel like it's incredibly important to start with them and to make sure it all there's just like a delicate balance. So that way there isn't any like, oh, well, this author clearly is showing this one favoritism, or, or we're obviously going to all choose this one and not really care about the others. Like I wanted you guys to struggle to pick a favorite because they're all just so wonderful and flawed in their own rights. And so, yeah, I'm very character driven for sure.
Well, and adding to our characters, of course, we have parents because of course we have parents, and we have problems with our parents because it's real life. This is fantasy, but it's also real life. So we have 4 fathers of our 4 male main characters, and they are unique and I was going to say a pain, but that's not exactly true. They are unique and present unique challenges to Riley throughout the course of the book. So not only is Riley having to contend with these men, she has to learn about these men, learn about their people, but also a step above that is deal with their fathers. And they have their own way of dealing with her that is just like, whoa. And it is refreshing to everybody in the book, to the reader, to have Riley be like, you know what? Nah. I'm not going to do any of this. I don't like you. I don't like any of this. Again, it's this freedom to stand up to 4 of the most powerful men and stand your ground, stand on business, speak your mind, and have that sense of, because she's afraid as well, but she's also owning it. And to have just that example for a reader is wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, the Kings definitely were. It's funny to say that they were a joy to write, but they really are, because they're kind of the representative of just that relatable man in power trying to put you in a box, and especially when it comes to their sons. And you can almost understand why they want to be hard on her, but then some of them take it to another level, some of them don't. And so I think it kind of shows the different varieties of wealthy, powerful men. And I kind of enjoyed, even though it was hard, exploring that, and then having because it's just, I think even if it's not a fantasy thing, every woman identifying person can relate to that kind of power struggle and just that annoyance and feminine rage of being like, no, like, don't try to put me in a box. Don't try to tell me what to do. I have my own intellect. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't, figure this out. And so that was something that was incredibly important to me, especially juxtaposed against the princes, who have a different view on female empowerment. I mean, their moms were goddesses, so they kind of get that from there. But the guys that were married to the goddesses definitely have a different view. So it kind of showed the differences. And so I can't say it was like super fun to write them, but it was an interesting exploration for sure.
Well, and I also think what was refreshing with the princes is that they acknowledged the faults of their fathers, the kings, because I feel like I don't want to say often, but there are times where child-parent relationships, you can have a sense of rose-colored glasses, and that doesn't really seem to exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I just love that the princes are like, they will call it out when they can, and that's something I think that's very important. In general, there should be more men standing up for women and being like in that group, being the one to be like, hey, no, like, let's not do that, And so that was very important when that came through with those princes. And it made me love them even more, honestly.
So we have talked about our princes, we've talked about our world, we've talked about our kings and Riley. I want to touch on our cities, are on the side, are not our main cities. I'm opening up the book, I'm looking at our map, and I'm looking at Leaf and Claw, Oak and Iron, Cedar and Silk, and of course the Ashlands. And these are our 4 cities on the side. So these are different from our other cities, our Princess City and our Royal City. Can you kind of tell us where these cities came from, their importance? Why do they exist in our world of Royal City and Princess City?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was setting up the world, I knew there was going to be a hierarchy, just like there was through all my research that I studied with other royal classes. And I knew that there was going to be cities that provided the wealthy with what they need. So tremendously to survive. Of course, the princes cities help contribute to Lumithus as a whole, but so do these lower cities. And without the lower cities, the wealthy wouldn't be what they are today. And so I definitely wanted that tension and that class structure to really come across, because it plays a huge role in Riley's character arc, going from the lowest class to possibly the highest class in the span of, a night. And so I thought that would create a lot of tension and also be relatable in today's world. And it was, she's very much like, forget royalty, forget wealthy, and then having to get right up in their world was something that was very fun and high stakes and intense for her.
And it's so interesting, too, because right off the bat, there's an encounter that Riley has. And this person says something to her that really struck me. And it's, again, right in the beginning of the book. This person says to Riley, do you think this is what royalty wears? And it's like, whoa, because when you think of that class structure and where kind of everybody is, even in that situation, Riley is wearing clothes that are her friends who are a class above her. Even then, it's just like, wow, that is just really a slap in the face of not only of like my station where I was born without any say, but of also my intelligence, of my awareness, of like my wittedness, of like where I am in life. Like, come on, guy. But again, it just kind of underlined where everybody was in this structure and how far Riley rises. I mean, truly, from where she starts. And because there is a level of, I mean, there's a few levels of discrimination here, but there's one that kind of runs like very prevalent throughout the Ashlands. That's a big plot point, and it is a huge part of the political plot. And it is something that's always in the back of Riley's mind, where she's pointing out to these princes, "Hey, what about them? Mm-hmm. What about them? Why are you asking? Why aren't you answering?"
Yeah.
That's deflection queen. And that is kind of going throughout her mind the whole time. And again, just like her friends, it is, as Jess and I always say, like, get into the system and change the system from within. It's a lot easier than doing it from outside. Be
the change you want to see in the world, but
be the change you want to see in the world.
But like, do it but do it within a position where you can invoke that change.
Mm-hmm. And that is so important.
Thank you. Absolutely. I completely agree. I love that the fact that Riley, she's used to taking risks for her people. That's already, up front. Like, she wants change so desperately, but she's also been in a world where she's like, I don't know how to do it. And then when she's thrust into it, she's like, okay, well, I'm going to make the most out of this. And I love that. And I think it's something that, again, women can relate to. The multitasker in us can absolutely handle several different plot lines at once. And it was incredibly important to be like, well, who takes care of them? And trying to, and I think that's also good with, the relationship dynamics, to point out things and open their minds in a way that maybe they wouldn't have before. And I think it was what set Riley apart for sure for the princes, prior with all the others that they had been with noble women mostly. And so they weren't asking those questions. They weren't presenting those kind of dynamics. And so I think it definitely helped set her apart and kind of made her perfect for this role, even though it was terrifying.
Well, I feel like they also weren't used to challenges, and that's what Riley brought them. She challenged them all mentally, and was also willing to accept the physical challenges too.
Right. Oh yeah, no, she definitely did. And she just, I think one of my favorite lines is, it's easy to laugh at death when you have nothing to lose. And she was very much in that moment. She's like, well, what else are they going to do to me? I mean, I'm already an Ashlander. I'm already hiding, certain things. And so I think that she kind of just clung to that and ran with it. She's like, well, I'm going to do whatever I can, or I'm going to die trying, which was something that I just loved about her.
Well, what a way to segue. So, I mean, your phrase is not mine. The book ends on a cliffhanger. You see what I did there? And the book ends on a cliffhanger, and it is very much like, whoa, we are in the thick of it, and you just leave us. You leave us there. So it's quite clear. It says to be continued. So I'm going to assume, even though we know what that does to people, that we're going to get a book 2. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm deep into it right now. We have 3 planned.
Ooh.
But I never say never. But right now I have 3 planned, and I'm deep into the book 2. I'm loving it, and I'm so sorry about the cliffhanger.
So we're deep into book 2. There's possibly a book 3, but we won't know till the end of book 2 if we get another to be continued. What has now, and then we can go back to like the writing process. You have a whole team under you that's supporting you, which is so different from when you had a 5-part series with the previous Why Choose. So are you following again, like the excitement that you shared with that first series?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely, when I wrote the first series, it really was kind of fast and furious. And I was definitely feeding off of readers after they got a hold of that first book. And this time around, it's been so incredible to get these messages and comments from early readers who have never tried a Why Choose before. And they're like stoked about it, and they're shocked because they didn't think they would like it. And so that's been really exciting. So yes, I'm definitely feeding off of that. Again, I'm a plotter, so I already had book 2 pretty much plotted out, before this one even came out or started getting early readers. So there are things that will trickle in that I'm so excited to get to because I placed them in book 1 for the reason of book 2. So it's always fun to get to that point. And my team is definitely over here cheering me on. We've discussed the plot of book 2 in length and made sure we're all excited about it. And so I feel a lot more confident going into it because I have people saying, yes, this is exactly where you need to go. So it's super rewarding for sure.
Well, that's something Laura and I, whenever we're reading a book that, especially fantasy, because I feel like it's rare for us to come across a standalone fantasy and romantasy at that. So there will be like things like you're saying, like there's Easter eggs in this first one that we'll have a payoff and we'll read it and we go, that can't possibly mean something. That has to be, but like, we don't know. So instead of like, I have a problem with reading is I'll focus on the wrong thing and I won't move on. And Laura's so great about like, okay, but we got to keep moving. It's either going to be in this book or it's set up for something else, but don't get stuck there. Especially when we're all wrapped up into the plot too.
Yeah, I love that. I think I too love Easter eggs in books, and I love being like, oh, I caught that. Or, you feel like such a part of the story. And I feel it almost makes you more connected to it in a way. So that's one of the reasons I love fantasy is because you can just develop it over so many different books and have, these things that seem small become really big and important. And then the readers are like, I knew it. I told you. And you didn't tell me. You didn't confirm it, but I knew it. And I love that. It's one of my favorite things.
Okay. So we have kind of covered everything here. And my final question for you will be, we are so excited to have you. We are so excited to have this book in our lives. And I'm sure other people would love to have you and have this book into their lives. Do you have any sort of events going on? Do you have any sort of things planned? Where can people find you? This is your time to promote yourself.
Oh, thank you so much again for having me. I adore you guys. And so I was so excited when I got the invite. It felt like kind of a badge of honor. I was super pumped. As of right now, the events keep coming in, which I'm so excited about. The ones that I can talk about right now are, I'll have a local event, April 18th in Colorado Springs, where I'm at the Barnes & Noble. I'll be putting that on my events page on my website soon. So definitely go to jadepresley.com if you want to find me. But another event, I'll be in San Antonio on April 12th at the San Antonio Book Festival. And then we're doing a pop-up event with Faeball Events in Kansas City on May 25th that I'm so excited. It's going to be my first ball. So I'm very excited about that. And then I have more coming, but I don't think I can announce them yet. So if you ever want to find me, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I do my best to respond to every personal message, every comment that I can. And then also just check out my events page on the website and you can find me.
You have such a booked and busy spring. And all this while you're still writing the second book.
Yes, it's a fun balance for sure. But it's really cool to be writing the second book while early readers are talking to me about the first one. Cause I'm like, oh, you're going to love this next chapter that I'm working on.
If you're liking that, you have to love it.
Yeah.
Wait.
Right, exactly. So it's a lot of fun and it is a balance, but luckily, like I said, with the plotting, I kind of have a formula down. Also, life gets in the way, but I mostly have kind of a regiment that I stick to. So.
Well, thank you for stepping outside of that regimen and taking time to come onto the podcast to speak about the Neverlist. We are so excited. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, the book will be out for almost 2 weeks. So we hope everybody is already just like having it in their clutches. The audiobook, there's going to be an audio version of this available. So it's super accessible so far, and check your library. So thank you again, Jade, for taking the time and coming on the podcast so we can talk about it more in the future.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Also, side note, the audiobook is fire. I've heard a little bit of it and I cannot, y'all. It's so good.
Well, we are audio girlies, so we will absolutely pick that up. And thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And as always, please make sure you're following Jade on all of her socials. We'll have those in the show notes. And please feel free to follow us on our socials. We're at ACOFAE Podcast on Instagram. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. We're also on YouTube. Please feel free to follow us there, subscribe. But thanks so much for taking the time, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks. Bye.